Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Right, and these are special forces guys, and these are jiu-jitsu guys, and these are dads, and their husbands, their fathers, their grandfathers, and all this stuff. And they're just lost, right? A lot of them. And you say true words. Me, Mike, and Danny get to speak into them, and here they come, right? Yep. And it didn't take a lot of effort, right?
It took being the light.
It took someone saying it out loud, right?
Yeah.
And where the truth is spoken, people will gather.
Yeah.
And as the lights dim,
right,
they saw a light.
They saw a light.
Like, let's stand by the light.
Yeah, let's
right?
go.
And
there.
it wasn't Jimmy, by the way, and you know that. You know, the light was Jesus Christ coming out of a man that can't get enough of it, and they're like, "I want to stand here." That's cool, right? That's purpose.
Yes.
And I don't know why you would do all of this without that, right? So that was a real shock to the system. It breaks my heart that those guys don't have conversations like we just had in my truck for 9 hours,
right?
Because they'd be better men if they did. Right. So how do you facilitate that?
Yeah.
How do you use this platform to say true words to make men stronger? Right. Because the whole world, you're going to be competing with garbage that's going to make them weaker. It's going to talk about Valhalla, and they're going to talk about, here's the whatever. It's a lot of it's garbage, and it's sexy, and I get it, man, in my 20s. But when I was a child, I talked like a child and I acted like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me, and this is what we're doing now.
That sounds like scripture.
I just made that. No, I'm just kidding. It absolutely is,
yes.
right? And that hits me hard a lot when I see childish things. And when you see childish things as a man, you can smile and go, that's childish.
It's childish.
And people are, what are you talking about? Everybody's doing it. I go, no, look at the state of the world. Well, how would you say that? I'd say it like this. I go, that sounds better. How about we do that? Because we've talked about this. If you modeled something for our young people, they just might follow, right? I didn't have that model as a young Christians were straight-laced, and I'm like, you guys are weird, and I want nothing to do with it. You're judging me about the way I live. You dress funny, you talk funny. I'm good over here with my Run DMC or my parachute pants. I'm just saying, but I wanted nothing to do with it. Went the other way, right? So like that's.
I just played that movie. It was fantastic.
But yeah, if you modeled that thing. Meaning, and you had said something this pinged that I toe the line, and I do. I have a standard, and I require, like, how much is really required of you as a Christian man on this earth from this world? I would guess the answer is not much.
Right.
Here I require to come in the building. Again, not in charge. You do whatever you want in the parking lot, but you must act like this because you will be decent here.
Right.
That's the deal.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other piece of that requirement in terms of capability. And this was the other piece that I wanted to hit on is Nick and I drive in. There's a special event on this coming Saturday. And so we have this standard that we have to meet. Yeah. Meaning we have to pass the recall test.
Yeah.
And which is not an easy thing to do.
No.
And so we have to come in, because it's so far, we have to come in with enough time to take a crack at it. Hopefully we've done enough work before we left the house that when we take that crack at that recall test, that we pass it. And why do we want to do that? So that then we can spend the week preparing for the special event that's coming up. If we don't pass that recall test, then it's like we got to scramble a bunch of training to zero in on the things that we didn't pass. Right. And then there's stress, which is a good thing, but it's still stress. And you're like, man, I got to get the thing.
Right.
And but if you don't meet the standard, then what comes in those advanced training special events is what I think are the next level applications to how we're growing these ministries in our communities.
Yeah.
But you have to have the standard. To your point, you have to have the standard, because if the standard is wavering, there's no integrity. And when there's no integrity, children can see that in a nanosecond, never mind other adults. And so it's like, it's a,
especially with men, but obviously with women as well, but especially with men.
mm-hmm.
If I lose credibility, I'm done. Right? The world we live in, everything's a ripoff till it isn't. Right?
Yep.
So if I lose credibility, this whole thing's done. It's just done. Right?
We knew that's how it was going to go.
Well,
right.
What is Jeff's message when you guys came to church, and we studied it on Monday as well. That's Jeff Swarzentraub at Brave Church. What's up, Jeff? Hopefully he's checking it out. But it is one of the first things he said that I wrote on paper was men love to be challenged.
Mm-hmm. That's the first
real
thing
men
I wrote
love to
down.
challenge, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you just said.
And there's an ember burning in us.
Like I
to
need,
do that.
like you're calling. Are you calling me out? I am actually. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So tan patch, okay. And if I get that, how about green patch? Like green patch is no joke. Like tan patch is no joke. I've never seen, like for what we're doing to require that you can do that level of entries with that level of shooting. I don't know who does that, right? And I've seen a lot. I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot. And I've worked at the upper echelon of what I would call the government training, right? And some of the things that we've done with civilians surpasses that. And I'm not kidding. I'm not like trying to blow smoke and look at me and whatever. I'm saying we have civilians that never had a background in this can pass federal government bodyguard training that I've seen Navy SEALs fail. That's as true as it is, long and I can prove that to you, right? But it just means they rogered up to say, please challenge me. And I did, and they got better. And they failed, and then they didn't fail. And now all of a sudden they're passing these elite level trainings. What does that do for their self-esteem and their calling as a man? Like,
so
I'm
good.
capable of doing this for my family. Not Jimmy's the hero of my family. I am. He just showed me the way.
I want to, you said a couple things, credibility. And before that, I think you said what's required of a Christian man.
Yeah.
So for me, and I'm absolutely positive for you as well, you can make a mistake in here training somebody and then fix it, right? But you are outwardly acknowledging that you are an ambassador of Christ. The credibility is much higher if you screw that up
That's right.
than if you screw up a scenario in here, because you can fix that. But when you screw up the representation of Christ, that's hard to fix, because then the people are offended, and then you've earned the title.
Yeah, that's why I said that. See, I told you, they're just waiting. The
Right.
world is waiting for that guy to fail.
Absolutely. But what I meant was, what is required of you to continue going to church?
Nothing.
Yeah, could you chug a case of whiskey and punch him out and still show up and walk in the door? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say.
You can't
Next
do
is,
right. That's a go.
the required part. But
You're
so
like, sweet.
why isn't there? Why isn't there? Why isn't that being taught? If you're going to claim to be an ambassador of Christ, why isn't that being taught in the church? And I'm not saying all churches,
Sure.
but or even in just in life in itself, as far as Christian men or the Christian community, doesn't necessarily have to fall on the pastor of a church. There is a requirement. You're to uphold. You've willingly made a choice to accept the salvation of Christ, the sacrifice that he did. So with that, you fall into the ambassadorship. There's a requirement for that, to uphold his reputation. And people are not being taught that. And on top of that, they're not being held to it.
Right.
The Pauls of the world aren't going to the Timothys and say, hey, man, you can't do that. Think about what you just said. Think about what you just did.
Nor is it their jobs. Like the pastors couldn't do that. That's our job.
Right, exactly.
That's our job.
We're the disciples that the pastors help make.
But it takes work. And and you guys know that I have had uncomfortable conversations in this program, remove people from this program. I've done all of that stuff, and it's not fun.
No.
You guys know that I just wrote a letter to a pastor last week and said, hey, I had to do the old, the bread and the meat and the thing, be super nice and then hit the, punch him in the stomach and then praise him afterwards.
Bakes
and
good
he
bread.
handled it. Yeah, bread's good. Meat, not so much. I think it's rotten, but the bread's good. But that was not easy to write.
Right.
And he handled it like a champ, and we're tighter because of it. Right. That's how a man responds. He responded back and said, brother, I appreciate this. And I'm like, ooh, because I thought we were about to not be friends anymore. Right. But all of a sudden we're tighter because he's like, thank you for that. Because I don't want to do that again. I harmed somebody and you saw it and I didn't realize it or whatever, So that's just good stuff. And I would ask that back to me, and I get feedback all the time from amazing Christian guys to recalibrate that compass to that. One of the conversations that we had. But I think that is on us, right? There's a Francis Chan video out there called I'm Not Your Moses. I'll send it to you guys. It's fantastic because he talks about that. Like everybody's like, I don't feel fed and I'm not doing the thing. It's like, hey man, and this wasn't in there, but I asked you guys this. Have you ever been so hungry that you would eat rice off the floor? Like people show up not hungry and they're like, entertain me, pastor. Right. It's like, hey man, that's not his job. His job is to speak the word of God and for you to come here to recalibrate. But man, you should be out there feeding people all week and come in here. If you truly, we talked about this morning, if you really serve the God, the Lord your God, with all your heart, strength, mind, and all your mind, all your strength, all your soul. I don't know anybody that serves God with all their strength, like to exhaustion, right? And you crawl into church to get refilled, right? But exactly. You're like, well, that's what my pastor should be doing. Like, that's what you should be doing. Right. So that's awesome. It hit me like a ton of bricks this week. Future, what's it look like? Ideally, perfect word.
Ideally, the future, what does the future look like for me? There is a mature team at Anchor Church that serves as a resource for any other team in Missoula or Western Montana or whatever it is, where they can help develop the capability of other teams. And really then what we're talking about is the expansion of a ministry and the expansion of a community where those individuals are feeding and being fed and growing and advancing the kingdom of God. And it along the way, they are perpetuating a standard of excellence around the able shepherd capability. So that's, and I see it actually going even much beyond that.
I would dare mimic that. For me, it's a greater distance coming here. Mm-hmm. So to do everything that I can to fit that standard of excellence, to represent what's happening here and bringing that back home on the shooting capabilities, the protector capabilities, whether that's hand-to-hand or whatever that looks like. And then while doing so, making sure that the presence of God is recognized, that there's something different. And then, like Jay said, is contributing to expanding the kingdom, and not with weak-minded, not making weak-minded people, but letting them know through action, through example and discipline, that there's a standard, and Christ is that standard, and that we have a responsibility to our homes, to our communities, and as that spreads, as we all know, across the country. I don't know what it looks like in the future for this country. I mean, we all know what happens in the end, but what happens between now and then, I pray to God that there's a revival and that this church just explodes and comes alive and truly takes our country back. I don't remember which songwriter it is. Maybe it's, I'm going to probably mess this up. Maybe it's Matthew West, but the song is, "Why am I here?" or something along that line. And in the song, God answers back, That's why you're here. I put you here for this. And sometimes we think too small and forget that God can do anything with any one of us if we're willing to move. And especially this week for me, that was one of the biggest things that I've heard through our conversations and through our experience at church is I can't wait for so-and-so to move and follow that person. It's to your point, I'm going this way and you're welcome to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mentality I'm going to take when I go home. So.
Hey man, like I to take a crack at it, I think the future holds. I want to protect schools. I want to build or be part of building safe options for educating our children for what's coming. Because I think it's going to get ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It must. People say this can't happen. I say it must happen. Open your Bible. This is going to happen. What you're in charge of is what are you going to be doing while it happens? My best bet is honor God by taking care of one another. Mm-hmm. And that might be physically ugly. It might be very ugly because that's typically what happens when societies are pinched, right? Protecting children in churches and schools. I want to pursue the hearts of men, and I want to use adventure to do it, right? The Rocky Mountains are right over there. You can see them from here, right? So getting up in there and using that to tap in. We are entertaining this ministry this summer that is likely going to be called What is a Man? It's going to be a retreat. It's a Christian retreat. And people are like, I don't retreat. Whatever. I don't care if we call it a retreat. I don't care what we call it other than modeling for people what that looked like. Mm-hmm. It's not, I used to think it was this welcoming boys. It's a rite of passage for boys into manhood. Man, 60-year-old men need that. They need to be affirmed and welcomed into manhood and say, don't ever question again if you're a man, right? Because I've just seen that too many people that don't have the definitions correct in their head. So doing that and building those folks and reaffirming those men or welcoming people young men into manhood is a big deal. Another thing is the building expansion. Like I said, if time is tight, we should go bigger than we planned on instead of phasing it in over the 10 years. And I've never been that person saying this is going to happen in my lifetime. I'm the guy saying this is going to happen in my lifetime, right? This is unsustainable, the course we're on, right? And if I'm in charge of myself and my family, it means I'm going to honor God. And that as we explore the spiritual journaling and all that stuff, and being receptive to what God is saying to you and then acting on it, He's yelling at me right now, right? And I can't not hear it.
Right.
So I'm going to go. So I'm going to go bigger than I ever planned on going. And whatever we need to do to make that happen is creating that facility that brings people in and models correctly how to do this. That does toe a line and say, we've talked about this. This will be the place I want every church in this area to come and train and say, there's a standard and we are all uniform, safe, and accurate. So if I need you, you come in. I need you, you come in. And the second you walk in my door, we're already on the same page. Right?
That's right.
And it'd be great to have a hub out there that you were that in Montana. And you were that out in Maine. And like, what do you mean you don't go here? That's where you go to do this. That's why we can do it and you can't. Right. And it's not look at me, look at me. It's like we're serving and it feels good. You should try it. And then they do it and they go, you know what? I feel what you said. You didn't convince me of anything. I came in reluctant and now I'm doing it. Right. And I'm a better man. Right?
Does going bigger include a Cessna for you to come get me?
Why? I don't know why it wouldn't. I mean, it's God's Cessna anyways. I don't know why I wouldn't drop it off in Nick's front yard.
That's right.
But I think that is, it's like, we talked about this, God's resources towards God's purposes, right? And if this isn't of God, I don't know what is, because I just don't typically talk like this, and the dreams I've had and the stories I've shared with you guys. It's not typically me, but I like it. I like this guy.
Well, I love that guy.
Absolutely.
That guy, man.
Over here, this guy.
Oh, man. One of the things that I don't know, because of the state of the union, which includes the nature of media in our current era, what most people don't know. So this tie between Nick in Maine increasing capability, Jason in Montana increasing capability, and than us trying to expand out from there and trying to do it as quickly as we possibly can. And epicenter of Abel Shepherd and Jimmy Graham in Colorado, and creating as many opportunities to expand capabilities for as many organizations as he can.
Right.
What the state of the nation and the state of media is that Christianity in this country, on this soil, is under major attack, and you can't read about it almost anywhere. And it's real threat every day. And it doesn't seem like that because we come from the land of milk and honey in a nation that was based on Christian principles. And so we feel like, because of the history of our nation, that could never be under attack. But the reality is that it's never been under greater attack than right now. So this urgency is, how do we expand that to engage in our roles as protectors and help increasing the capability of other individuals who are protectors, because that's the front line between good and evil, when that's manifested through flesh and human.
Right.
I've told you that, I'm not the big doomsday guy, but this thing that we're doing is way bigger than what I realize. I believe that now, right? It's like people are like, yeah, we'll all band together and I may never see you again. And you may lead people to save their life because of something that I was a small part of, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that ripple goes outward, right? To where I think that is a thing. I'm investing into my young people, meaning my kids. Mm-hmm. I'm investing in anybody into this program, actually anybody that'll listen to the podcast, anybody that'll watch anything like that, fully investing in that to try to model a thing that's sustainable to potentially save your life eternally, right? Our young people, just like we said, our men, we haven't required much of them because it's the milk and honey, man. It's like, hey, get on your iPad, do your thing. Right. Heaven forbid, do a push-up. It's like whatever. It's like there's really not a lot going on, and that's unfair. Right. So I do require things of my children. I model things. I get them out. Sometimes I train them and they don't know they're training. We're just having fun, but they didn't realize they were learning a skill that could save their life. Mm-hmm. Right. And then something happens, a little blip in the system, and then somebody gets out of line. We need it. And it wasn't a huge emergency, but it worked. And I go, do you see what we were actually doing?
Right.
It could have been bad. It just wasn't. And then tell them that they did a good job.
I think to what Jay was saying, we're the last generation alive that witnessed what the country was. Everything, the generations after us are soft, sitting home, playing video games, whatever it is they're doing. But they're between the school systems and media, TV shows, even commercials are attacking manhood. Mm-hmm. And so they have no idea what they're missing out on. They don't know. We probably say it so much it's sickening, but they don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So it as I'm sitting here listening and just thinking of all these things, it just put a heavy load on my shoulders where I have to start educating these younger kids to make them understand, to help them understand what it looked like and how it's supposed to be. And with adding to that is start finding 1, 2, or 3 that you can pour into, so that, to your point where you just said that you could be gone, who's going to carry that torch?
Yeah.
And if we and there are a lot of guys like that, and I've been there mentally, where I'm the one that's going to get it done. I can't count on whoever, or it's just easier if I do it myself, type of thing. And as I sit here and recognize how old I am, I need to start bringing somebody up. And
Because if they don't know, it's because we haven't taught them.
Exactly. Right.
So it's like, at risk of being the old dudes that are like, the kids today, you're all gonna die. It's like, then get to it. And we can't.
Well stated, Elder Higgins. Right.
Yeah. And we do. We have to embrace, as much as we don't want to. Like, we're on a podcast. Like, what's happening right now? And I post on Facebook, and we do all this stuff. I'm writing a book. I never thought that was coming, and it's on.
They still make books?
It's on this exactly. You better buy a paper book. You know why? Because the government can't come in and white out the pages, right? But they can change anything that's on here. So, do I want to help 5 kids, or do I want to help 5 million kids? Right? There's a mechanism to do it. Like, I get feedback from all over this country when I post my devotional.
Yep.
A Navy SEAL that says, thanks for posting this. That's maybe in a different country, at least on the other side of the country, or a house mom, or somebody who's in the Navy with, or blah, 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 whatever. It's a powerful tool.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Use it for good.
Yep.
That's right.
And people are like, I get it. You don't have to be on Facebook, but you're just opting out of the conversation, right? If you're not putting it out, you're saying, well, then you guys put it out. And then you're mad because they heard it. Like, okay, well, you're the one that gave them the microphone, right? You didn't even step to it. So I think that there is something that we need to get more educated on how these how these battles are being fought. The other thing is, I don't think that, that young man that we just had lunch with, there's a strength in him. There's something going on in my nephew Lance. If you think that we're not going to be okay, I would like to introduce you both know them, to Rebecca, Sarah, Christian, and Eden. We're going to be okay. It's going to suck because the hard times are coming. But if you require much from your young people, they will win a war for you. They always have, right? But it's going to require, it may not be Jimmy Graham that turns the tide for any of this. It might be Christian Graham. But what's required to make Christian Graham is Jimmy Graham, right? So I've got to be the guy that influences, maybe it's my children, maybe it's BK, maybe whatever. It's like something about that guy made me a little better. And then God steps into your life and you change. And I don't care who does it. It just needs to happen, right? Because all the glory goes to God, because it will kill us if we try to claim that. So that's, in my mind, that's encouraging. Most guys I know are action adventure guys. They'll sit there on Netflix and that's where they go because they love action adventure. Well, wake up, you're living one. So if you want to fight, there's many out there. Pick one and get to it. But I don't see a lot of it. So, and I'm not saying it's not happening, because we just talked about Jeff and, Jeff Horsentraub, Jack Hibbs. There's so many people, the young generation with Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk,
yeah.
There's something happening.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm not going to sit here and bash churches.
Right.
A lot of them are jacked up, right? Okay, find a better one.
Right.
But if you're not a believer, get to a good church. And if you're one that ain't bringing it, then go to another one. But come hungry. Don't sit there and expect to be entertained because that's what you're used to, because of, whatever, all the social media stuff. So it's going to take work, but it's worth it. So our young people are worth it. Any last thoughts?
Probably nothing that I haven't already said, but all I want to encourage, because for me, like I said, this week has been, well, I shouldn't even say it. It hasn't even been a week yet.
This place ages you in dog years.
I know, right? It's been, well, like you said earlier, you just finished a fast, as we did at our church as well, and God spoke. And coming out here, He's tied that together for me, how He spoke to me during that fast and what's been being said here. So I've posted things on Facebook. I'm sitting here, and as you're talking about that, the first thing that popped in my head is we teach weapons retention. Keep your gun in your hands. Don't let the bad guy get it. Facebook, Twitter, all these other things have been used for evil. And to your point, we're going to take it. We're going to take the weapon that they've been using against us and turn it on them, meaning these media types, and start pounding it with devotionals or podcasts, or I share Jack Hibbs and all kinds of stuff on mine. And so where I'm going with this is, I would encourage anybody listening that if you're a Christian, you're going to church, to be refilled and weaponized to go out into the world, and you're given the sword, the double-edged sword, and use it responsibly and use it with love. Don't give up, and spend more time on your knees than you've ever spent before. And if you're not sure what that is, then it's not enough. Keep doing it. And then find somebody, a Paul or a Timothy or whatever the case, be poured into and pour it out, and let yourself be sharpened. Don't think that you're too smart, that you don't need to be sharpened. Get out there, find somebody that's willing to speak truth and love into you, and then do the same. We're in a war, period. And it's time to act like it.
Amen. Thoughts, amigo. We can make up our own Spanish words. Hermano means brother. Amigo means friend.
Amigo Stan,
Go,
the place
amigo.
that happens.
Hit it, amigo.
Yeah. I think for me, it's having because we've been talking about the significant amount of time, effort, energy, resources committed to the development, the polishing of our spiritual walk. And that's what happens for me every time I'm down here. The development, the polishing of our capabilities, and the development and the polishing of our personal life visions, and how we try to steward the opportunities around us as a reflection of the will of God. And that sounds way up here for somebody that doesn't have a relationship with Christ. And it's much easier than how all of that sounds. It's taking a step towards exploring the person of Jesus Christ and how he walked, but just taking a step. It doesn't even have to be a perfect step. It's like when we learn J-turns. Pick a forward gear. It doesn't have to be the fastest gear. It just has to be a gear. And because the reality is that whether you're a believer or not, what you see in this country today is absolute chaos. It's upside down. And there's a collection of books that talk exactly to how it's upside down, why it's upside down, and where all of that is going. And so it's whether we're talking about fixing broken men or supporting our children, it's as simple as one step forward. It's a forward gear in that direction, and it's not any more complex than that.
Feed the front.
Feed the front, that's right. Always got tactical terms. Yeah, I think what's popping in my head about a final thought is that me personally, and I think a lot of men would resonate with this, if you are truly that action adventure time, I'm almost sick of hearing my own voice talking about it, right? My calendar looks like a bag of Skittles this summer, and it's not because I did, it's because Melissa built it. No, it means that we are not going to just sit here and talk about it.
Right.
This whole summer is full of action steps, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, this podcast is our voice, and we get to share this so we can invite other people and spread the word. I don't want to just affect 100 people. I want to affect millions of people, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm willing to do the legwork. We're willing to spend all summer investing in these children and then making a show showing how you invest in your children. You don't have to do it the way we did it, but this is being done, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to have regrets about how I raised my kids. I don't want to have regrets about like I'm when elders speaking to me, when I got my mentors speaking into me, I hear that. I hear that, you have to make the time. You've only got so many more summers with Rebecca in your home under your care. All of this stuff, it absolutely matters. And I've had some good models in recent years, and I will be a good model, and I'm not just going to talk about it. So like I told Parker when I was coming back from Texas, if you don't own a mouthpiece, you might want to order one because we're going to get bloody on this one, right? So, and that may mean, and I don't know that I shared this, BK, but we, and this is rough to talk about, but you must hear this. After all of this with Texas and all that, my heart was in a sensitive place, meaning that it's broken for men. It's broken for America. I love this country. And there was a suicide in my daughter's school, right? A young man in her class, for whatever reason, believed lies, and that happened. How do you deal without Jesus, without the truth? It's not only a disservice, I think it's malfeasance to go and lead with a pack of lies, or at least go in there not armed with the truth and do further damage. That bothers me in a big, big way. I am involved with the school. I am now on staff with the church. There's many things going on, so I will not be a guy who merely talks about this, because it does. It breaks my heart. I'm not the guy that can see a broken thing and leave it broken. Not when it's this important. Right. So, and I know you guys are on board with me. So join us. It's amazing. And it doesn't mean join us, come out here. By all means, come out here. But watch what we're doing and do something likewise, because it is a Christ-focused, Christ-first thing. It's a lot of stinking fun, and it's making people better. And if you've got a better thing, please send it, because I'm willing to learn from that. If the objective is truly what we just talked about. So anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. Jay, Nick, BK, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Again, special thanks to our sponsor, Able Nation. Please call Neil. Neil, what's up, brother? We love you, man. We know you follow us. So able-nation.org. Until we see all y'all again, God bless each and every one of you. Take care of one another.